going on, you bunch of heathens? Today we are checking out Cliffs of Gallipoli. Now, this has been recommended to me since, I want to say, the very beginning of my Sabaton journey. And I just kept putting it off and forgetting about it. But I saw someone had commented, it was like week, something like 7 or 8 of trying to get me to do it. And it's like, you know what? Yeah, let's do it. I keep putting it off. It's been on my list for a while. So here we are. There are 2 parts of the history portion. So instead of putting that in this video, we're going to be doing both parts tomorrow. But do not worry, those of you who want me to check out the HMS Ocean Liner disaster or whatever, I will check it out because ship disasters and like sinkings and just stuff like that are one of my subject that I'm really interested in, and I find it really enjoyable. So the fact y'all want me to check it out is awesome. So I will get to that. Do not worry about that. Yeah. As always, the original is linked below. Make sure you guys go and check it out. And let's jump in. I saw this. 2008. This is an old-ass video. Oh. Hell yeah. I love how they all still look the exact same.
Hear them whisper, voices from the other side. Hear them calling, for my folks now friends are resting side by side. They will never leave our hearts or fade away, live forever. They were far too young to die in such a way.
Oh, I like this. Damn, I'm a fan of this older shit. Why does my face keep turning that way? No.
Hell is waiting where the ocean meets the sand, cliffs of burden, where the soldiers rushed into us
Ooh, like the choir in the background again. That's just a thing they do apparently, and I love it every time they do it. I feel bad not really saying anything because Gallipoli is one I don't really know anything about, like at all. But I will say I didn't mention it, but it was like back a bit where you mentioned there is no winners, just young men who died in war or something along those lines. I really like that line because it really speaks the truth of of the concept of war. I like the keyboard. Here's the solo. Ooh, I like that. Not sure if I'm just making this up or if, like, I'm looking back very fondly or something like that. But I swear to God, the sound, like, just the sound of, like, how they ran the guitar through whatever they did is very much so giving me 2008 vibes. Like, I'm thinking back, 2008, I'm just starting, well, not even. So I didn't start my, what's it called? My anime arc yet. I started at, like, 12. So, yeah, no, that's, very strange. I get very much so early 2008 vibes from this song, if that makes sense. I don't even know if it came out then, either like before that, or like they waited a couple years to do this, but that's just, I don't know what it is. That's just the vibe I get. Too many is the answer to that. God, his voice sounds amazing when he did that. That was good. And you know what? Fuck it. We're going straight into history portion. I can't wait for it. I really like the history portion, so we're jumping straight into it. All right, let's go. Let's just go.
Nidell.
And I'm Joachim from Sabaton.
And this is Sabaton History.
One of their older ones, I guess.
This song is going to be covered in 2 episodes, so I can cover 2 aspects of the topic.
Okay.
Gallipoli. For 8 months in 1915, that name was headline news worldwide.
And our song, Cliffs of Gallipoli, is a tribute to the men who fought and died there.
Yeah, I think Gallipoli I mainly know from World War I aspect. And I only really remember it in passing.
The Great War was just a half-year old, but casualties had already risen to unthinkable levels. British soldiers were dying by the tens of thousands in the bloody stalemate on the Western Front. Leading politicians began looking for an alternative to the slaughter in the trenches. Most vocal among them were Lord Kitchener, Secretary of State for War, and Winston Churchill, First Lord of the Admiralty, who thought that
Churchill looks so
trying to beat
young.
the Germans in Flanders, they should strike towards the weakest link of the Central Powers, the Ottoman Empire. They believed the Ottoman military to be second-rate, more of a nuisance than an equal. Churchill envisioned a strike against Constantinople itself by sea. Taking the Turkish capital would drive the Ottomans out of the war and open up a direct shipping route towards Britain's Russian ally. Indirectly, it would safeguard British interests in Mesopotamia and Suez as well. So on paper, this seemed like a total win-win for the Allies.
That if it worked, that'd be a big win.
For the British hubris was the recent military record of the Ottoman Empire. Serious defeats during the Balkan Wars and the recent catastrophic outcome of the Battle of Sarikamish just weeks ago, where tens of thousands of soldiers froze to death in the Caucasus Mountains, painted a picture of incompetent leaders and a badly equipped and trained Ottoman military. The sick man at the Bosporus would be no match for the professional British soldiers. There was, however, a major obstacle along the way. To strike against Constantinople, any Allied fleet would have to penetrate the Straits of the Dardanelles that guard the entrance to the Sea of Marmara. And those straits were narrow and had been a natural line of defense for centuries. And the sick man was not as sick as the British believed. Since the Balkan Wars, the defenses of the straits had been continually improved and ammunition restocked.
You also got to remember, where you'd be fighting wouldn't be where, like, they froze to death in the Caucasus. They wouldn't be there. Also, they're defending their capital. Any kind of defense, you would assume would be even more, what's the word? Hardcore, I guess. If you know what I mean. Like, people will defend their own country even harder.
In addition to
especially the
guns,
capital.
The Ottomans had mobile 120mm howitzer batteries on the ready, highly trained troops, and line after line of mines in the waters. Under Çanakkale Fortified Area Command of General Fahri Pasha, the Dardanelles became the most fortified area of the whole Ottoman Empire. The British and French fleets tried to force passage through the straits. Even a modern warship can be sunk by a single mine, though. And after disaster on March 18th, 1915, when the Ottomans sank 3 Allied battleships and severely damaged 3 more, the Allies had to rethink.
Hear them whisper, voices from the other side. Hear them calling, for Mythos, no friends are resting side by side.
The artillery positions on the hills had to be taken out first by land if the operation towards Constantinople was to succeed. The task was given to General Sir Ian Hamilton, in overall command of the Mediterranean Expeditionary Force. The MEF included, along with British units, the ANZAC, Australian and New Zealand
ANZAC forces,
Army Corps, under General Sir William Birdwood. ANZAC had been heading for Britain before being diverted to Egypt. Instead of fighting Germans, they would now fight the Ottomans. The Australians, New Zealanders, and Maoris of Anzac considered themselves natural soldiers, men hardened by daily outdoor activity, and the aggressive and unruly character of the Anzacs seemed perfect for the task ahead. The MEF was further strengthened by an Indian brigade and the Gurkha Rifles, who joined the Anzacs and a French force at Malta in early March. The French government was not too keen on the whole endeavor, but they themselves had their own ambitions in the Middle East and could not simply leave it all to the British if they succeeded in toppling the Ottomans. The French created the first Division Corps Expeditionnaire d'Orient, made up of regular French troops, the French Foreign Legion, and Senegalese and Zouave forces. Once again, though, the planning phase betrayed the arrogance of British high command.
Oh, no.
While generals on the western or eastern fronts made plans for all sorts of eventualities and for a quick exit if everything suddenly went to hell, nothing of the sort was prepared for the Gallipoli landings. Instead, Hamilton's plan was overambitious, and it had one critical flaw. It all depended on the Ottoman inability to stand up to the invaders.
That is a huge fucking flaw. Like, that is a massive flaw. That is a flaw of the highest order. Why would you basing your entire operation off of banking on the fact that they won't be able to fucking fight you or stand up to you is insaneful. It is insaneful wishful thinking.
But what if they did not turn and run, and instead stood and fought?
It's gonna be a hell of a fucking fight. Like, who thinks like that?
The German influence over the Ottoman forces was personified by General Otto Liman von Sanders in command of the 5th Army at Gallipoli. Ever since the naval attacks, it was thought that an invasion might take place. And the British did little to hide their intentions. In fact, the Greek newspapers ran headlines about the coming landings. But the Gallipoli Peninsula
Was it even
was large,
secret?
and the Ottoman forces could not guard every beach. Von Sanders decided to
No,
put
but they could guard the
only a
best
screening
ones.
force as a tripwire defense close to the beaches and keep most of his men in reserve units further back. Ottoman officers at the front would assess the situation and send in reinforcements where necessary. One such officer was Lieutenant Colonel Mustafa Kemal, in command of the Ottoman 19th Division.
A dope-ass
He
name.
was familiar with the defenses, and his troops were well-trained, motivated, and equipped. In fact, with the help of German instructors and weapon supplies, it was quite a formidable fighting force. The landings began the night of April 25th. The Anzacs would land on the west of the peninsula at a place called Gaba Tepe, later known as Anzac Cove. They would build a bridgehead and advance the next day all the way to the heights of Maltepe. The other British troops would land at the tip
Pretty
of the
decent
peninsula,
beachhead.
Cape Helles, and then take Achibaba and the Kilid Bar Plateau in one fell swoop. After that, they would simply join forces and push the Ottomans from the heights. There were also several diversionary landings around the flanks, with the French landing on the Asian side of the straits at Comcale. Illuminated by the moon, the Anzac landing craft made their way towards their destination.
Or that was the plan, at least. I'm assuming that was the plan, at least. Did it actually go that way, or did I like
Fighting
misread
the strong
something
currents,
or mishear?
beaches were in darkness, and all was still. And hopes were high that they would fully surprise the enemy.
How are you gonna fully surprise them if you got people running fucking stories
As soon
on
as
this?
they made ground, the first bullets crashed into the boats. A concert of rapid rifle fire erupted, and the battle for Gallipoli had begun. Anzac was not even facing an entire battalion, but the sudden fire caused confusion.
No, I have heard of Gallipoli. I don't know why it took me this long to fucking think of it. Oh, a lot of people died here. I don't know why it didn't click for me until just now, but I just heard of the epic rap battles of history where it's Roosevelt versus Churchill. And I don't know why, I just thought of the line, "You tossed away lives in Gallipoli like scraps off your plate." That I don't know why my mind just went there, but it did, and oh god. Oh, this is gonna be a fucking massacre. I don't know why I didn't think of it before.
As the first casualties began to litter the beaches. As more and more Anzacs landed, the outnumbered Ottomans retreated to higher ground and into prepared trenches. And as the sun rose, they fired freely into the mass of men on the beaches. The Anzacs had been ordered not to load their rifles and instead rushed up the hill, bayonets fixed.
Oh,
but in the
no.
dim morning, it was hard to navigate the steep heights and the thorny undergrowth, and the Ottomans fired and retreated further. The Anzacs were soon left out in the open, trying to make sense of the rough terrain, climbing the high ridges, running through razor-sharp thorns and over slippery stones, soon left the men exhausted, and many fell to accurate Ottoman sniper fire. The maps were totally inadequate, and the officers still standing were overwhelmed by the situation.
Getting told, yeah, no, you're not gonna, don't load your rifles, just rush them bayonets. That's so stupid. And the maps aren't enough. It's at night, you like, bad terrain. Holy shit,
The
what
Ottomans
a
themselves
fucking shit
retreated
show.
towards the heights of Chunuk Bayer. From the high ground, they could direct artillery fire onto the beaches. Mustafa Kemal was among the first to understand that the landings at Anzac Cove were not a diversion, but were the real deal. He ordered
Still a
his
dope
division
name.
to Sari Bair, the highest point on the peninsula. But while he himself was trying to get a better view of the situation, he saw exhausted men flooding back from the fighting. Upon ordering them to stop, They declared that the Anzacs were moving up and they themselves had no ammunition left. While Kemal's orderlies were running back to get the division moving, he ordered the men he'd halted to fix their bayonets and turn back to attack with the now famous words, "I don't order you to attack, I order you to die. In the time which passes until we die, other troops and commanders can take our place."
That is some fanaticism. Holy God, what the? Okay. Seems unnecessary to me, but I don't know.
The pursuing Anzacs were totally caught off guard by the sudden counterattack. Fearing that Ottoman reserves had already arrived, they pulled back. Everywhere around Anzac Cove, the Ottoman resistance began to stiffen. Attempts to cross the ridges were immediately met with heavy fire from an unseen enemy. The invaders were stuck. At Helles, the situation was even worse. Way worse. This was an obvious landing site, and the Ottoman defenders had prepared thoroughly. As the Allied landing craft closed in on the beaches, they were met with a deadly hail of bullets. Many men were hit before they could make landing. Others panicked and jumped into the water. Many of those drowned, dragged down by their heavy kit. But those that made it out of the boats
that's a story I've heard many
belts of
times in
barbed wire
landings.
guarding the beach, trapping them in the open. Soon, bodies littered the beach, and the waves washed ashore blood red. The men lucky enough to make it through huddled down behind a sandbank. At just 5 feet high, around 1.5 meters, it was the only cover available. Again, there were only a few Ottoman platoons defending the area, but they had fortified trenches and knew how to use their rifles and field artillery to deadly effect.
Yeah.
The British officers could only watch as the landing crafts were blown to pieces. The men at Helles were trapped. Similar scenes happened at the other landing places. Y Beach was shot to pieces, while the attacks on X and S broke down the same way as the main landings without major results. Often forgotten by the history books is the French landing at Kum Calais.
Yeah, how'd that one go?
Semi-victory that day. That force, under General Albert d'Amada, was to silence the Ottoman guns on the Asian side of the straits and divert Ottoman troops. Their actual landing was nearly unopposed, but the overall Ottoman forces facing them were far more numerous than on the European side. Fighting for the tiny town lasted all day, but the vicious close-quarter combat was for naught. The invasion plan had failed. And as darkness fell, it came as a relief. For the exhausted Ottomans, it was time to fall back and reorganize and wait for the reserves. For the Allies, the cover of night was a saving grace. Finally, they could make a move. Men could come ashore, the injured could be tended to, and fresh officers could take charge. The wounded flooded back to the medical ships. But the doctors and nurses were not prepared for the amount of casualties.
Oh, of course they weren't.
There was not enough room. There was not enough morphine. And even if a wounded man survived, it was still a journey of 600 miles, 1,000 kilometers, back to Alexandria to recuperate. And so the first day of Gallipoli came to an end.
This is just...
Campaign had only just begun.
This just screams poor fucking planning. Holy shit.
So, Joachim, tell us a little bit about the musical side of Cliffs of Gallipoli. Well, that's a good question, Joachim, because it's actually a song that took a long time to write. I started writing it in 2006.
Oh, damn.
It's actually one of those projects. Sometimes you start writing a song, and it takes a while before you get it done or finish it. But
yeah, I've heard of that.
In many cases, it's been lying dormant. You haven't been working actively on it. In the case here, though, I think I constantly wrote on that song almost every day for 2 years.
Like, okay, so
damn, that's a lot of work then.
Version, does it sound very different from when it came out?
Oh, yes and no. I mean, I don't know how many songs. I mean, all the parts that were taken away for that song probably could consist of 2 more songs in it. You know?
Wow.
Same thing for Bismarck, actually. It's probably 3 songs worth of writing in there. It didn't take as long, though. But with Cliffs of Gallipoli, I just felt that I had something special going on. And it's not a typical Sabaton song at all. Well, you know, you get these you fall in love with some of your projects a little bit more, and
Yeah.
sometimes a little bit too much. This is
Okay.
one of those cases. I really felt it was something I wanted to make perfect, as good as I could. And for once, I actually think I couldn't have done it any better. Probably someone else could, but at least
your
I
song.
couldn't. And it's one of the few times where
He felt he did his
the guitar
best.
solo I wrote ended up on the album.
Aha. Now, did you write the music and the words, or did you just write the music and the words?
The lyrics was written with me and Per together.
Okay.
Yes, really one of the most fantastic stories. And you know, in most cases, we actually get to visit the sites we sing about
Right.
after we've done the song.
You did it
Oh, yeah,
before?
sure.
And in this case, when we came to Gallipoli the first time, that is spooky because it's like paradise.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful there. And then you think, you know, you're walking around, where are the trenches? And then you almost fall and break your leg. It's like, okay, I guess there are the trenches.
Well, that's such a different contrast in the same war. Like, you know, we've talked about and we visited together like locations on the Western Front at Verdun and stuff, and it is really somber. And it is, and you feel that there's been war here.
Yeah,
but
but-
when you're like overlooking the Dardanelles and stuff, I mean, it's just fantastically beautiful. You don't think? I mean, there are. Sure, there's earthworks and that they've rebuilt, and there's some physical buildings and defenses, but you don't see it unless you're thinking of it, that this was a place where thousands upon thousands of people died in horrible conditions.
No, I mean, and I also think that
God, that is a
would
trippy
have
thing to think about,
done
huh?
things differently. I mean,
Yeah.
if me and Per had been there and seen that, we would have built in some parallels of, you know, the contrast of then and now in a way.
Oh, that'd be very interesting too.
That'd be
Maybe you could
cool.
write another song about Gallipoli.
Yeah, I mean,
Honestly, yeah. Honestly, a few songs remastered, or I don't even know what you would call it, remastered, re-released, something like that, where now with better hindsight and more understanding of certain things, I think could go absolutely hard.
this one gets 2 episodes, so maybe we should cover it again.
And
What do you think?
you've got all that extra music that didn't make the final. So you've got.
That is actually a really brilliant
So-
idea.
So you
Honestly,
make
I would
Cliffs
love that kind of
Gallipoli. This
thing.
could be like the bays of Gallipoli, or the sea of Gallipoli, or the Dardanelles.
The shores of Gallipoli.
Shores of Gallipoli. I see.
Ah.
All right. So on your second album, Great War Part 2, that's going to come out. Your 90s R&B album that comes out in 2020. That's going to have Shores of Gallipoli on it.
Yes, a trap beat. Cool, man.
All right. Well, I think we've all learned something today.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Joachim.
Thank you for having me.
We'll see you next time.
God, very short music section. All right, we're gonna jump into part 2 now. All right. Oh, look at that. Par's here.
I'm Indy Nidell.
And I'm Per from Sabaton, and this is Sabaton History.
Dope. Love me some Sabaton History.
This is part 2 of Cliffs of Gallipoli. Now, we covered this song in 2 episodes, so I could cover 2 aspects of the topic.
Yes,
The
let's
song
hear the
took us
second.
All the way from Sweden to Turkey.
The initial Gallipoli
Very good
landing, which we
headbanging
covered in
song.
Part 1, had been both a tactical and strategic failure. The Allied troops held onto their beachheads and had managed to conquer a few ridges and hills.
Okay,
around-
so yes, I was right. That was the plan, to move out as easily as they did, but that was not what happened whatsoever.
on the
Okay.
landing sites, but that was nothing compared to the objectives set for them.
Okay,
The
so those
invasion
were the
plans
objectives,
far
got it.
Too ambitious, and were based on the belief that the Ottomans would be easy enemies to defeat. By May, the Allies should have cleared the whole peninsula. Instead, the Ottomans had the advantage, and they brought in reinforcements, machine guns and howitzers, while fortifying the higher ground. German General Lehmann von Sanders had had time to read the reports of his Turkish officers and commit his reserves. And although their localized counterattacks were stopped by the invaders, it was clear that they would not just sit and remain passive forever. On the night of May 19th, the Ottomans gathered a large force of fresh reinforcements from Constantinople and Smyrna under Esad Pasha. Thousands of cheerful young men, praying for God's help, went over the top towards the enemy. But the Anzacs facing them had been well aware of the buildup to the attack. As daylight broke, 10,000 casualties littered the narrow fields of no man's land, piled on top of one another. Like everywhere
so
in this
many.
The firepower of entrenched machine guns and determined riflemen had created an impassable wall. And the Ottomans learned a lesson by blood. Never again here would they try to attack on such a large scale, and instead would focus on smaller skirmishes, raids, and their relentless snipers.
So many fucking dead.
Soon, the stench of rotting flesh in the summer's heat was too much to bear. A short armistice was arranged, and men from both sides went onto the battlefield to bury the dead. It was the first time here that the men came to know each other without violence. Curious looks and even small gifts were exchanged. Trench warfare set in on the Gallipoli Peninsula, and soldiers on both sides realized they were going to be there for a while.
God, he looks haunted. I don't blame... God, this seems like shit.
To escape the constant threat of shells and sniper fire, men began to disappear under the earth, into trenches and dugouts. The peninsula was soon transformed into a maze of trenches, saps, and strongpoints, zigzagging through the rough countryside. Both sides mined and countermined each other, while on the surface, skirmishes were fought all the time over the narrow plateaus, steep ridges, and hilltops. Places like Dead Man's Ridge, Battleship Hill, or Lone Pine were constantly contested, and yet, at Anzac Cove, the men found ways to communicate with the enemy. No one wanted to die needlessly, so sometimes instead of
No one
bombs,
wants to.
they might throw a pack of cigarettes over the parapets, or toss across a can of bully beef. The French on the far right at Helles
Oh. Hear the... what was the fucking line in the song? Hear the whispers or something like that on the other side?
had similar live and let live arrangements with their enemies. Like if both sides had to cross a certain gully to bring in fresh water, they would plant little flags or signposts, and as long as no one ventured further than that, they would not be shot at.
I
In
like
the British
that.
sector of Helles, though, there was no such fraternization.
Of course, it's the
Ottoman High
Brits.
Command loathed the British imperialists and thought them to be the major aggressor in this war. Both sides fired at the slightest sign of movement, harassed each other day and night with artillery, and gave no quarter during advances. The overall situation at Gallipoli changed little over the summer. The Allies needed more men and artillery to achieve anything bigger than taking the next ridge before them. And the Ottomans had all the time in the world to strengthen their defenses.
Yeah, they
Here
earned
and
it
there,
kind of rush.
brave attacks and successful bluffs continued to improve the Allied positions, but they did not change the overall stalemate. And larger assaults led to massacres and huge casualties for both sides. While the Ottomans were defending their homeland against foreign invaders, the sense of the whole point of the campaign began to be lost among the Allies. Clearly, they were not winning this battle, and clearly they were not advancing towards Constantinople. They could not even advance towards the next ridge without losing friends and comrades. The dehydration due to the constant lack of water, which they had to import from across the sea, the ever-present sniper fire, the flies, fever, lice,
Oh my
dysentery,
God.
morale plummeted,
Nah,
as did the health
fuck
of the
that shit.
soldiers.
That's horrible.
Because life at Gallipoli was never safe. You could dodge bullets, you could dodge shells, but it was harder to dodge illness or dodge exhaustion. High Command was aware of the lack of progress, but what to do? Send in more men in the hope of achieving something? Was victory even still possible? And if not, how to end this? British Secretary of State for War Lord Kitchener
Yeah,
feared
what'd Kitchener
the
do?
loss of British prestige in the Islamic world if they retreated. Such a retreat might also encourage other nations to join the Central Powers. But you know, the common soldiers cared little for such
Ah,
concerns.
why the fuck would they?
They will never leave our hearts or fade away, live forever. They were far too young to die in such a way.
Too
August
many were
was
too
supposed
young to
change
die
things.
that
A
way.
new landing at Suvla Bay that would open the possibility of a left hook, and in concert with a breakout attempt at Anzac Cove, would disrupt the Ottoman hold over the peninsula and finally open up a way to the Sari Bair Ridge. Diversions for the landing at Suvla took place all over the peninsula. But though there was still a lot of fight left in the exhausted Anzac troops, the plans of High Command were simply out of range of what was physically possible. And the landings at Suvla Bay faced the same problems as the landings before that we saw in part 1.
God forbid they
Under
fucking
fire
learn.
And in unmapped territory, the men quickly lost
Oh my god, it was even fucking unmapped. Holy shit.
track of time and space. And although they advanced quite a bit inland, they were soon checked by determined Ottoman reserves and had to dig in. They did not meet any of their objectives. The August battles brought no major changes to the overall situation. A fatalistic mood set in over the Allied forces. In September and October, men and guns were further worn out, and the weather began to turn. The heat and the flies vanished, sure, but the approaching winter was even more threatening. The thought of evacuation began
Rain?
making the
I'm assuming
rounds.
rain?
By October 14th, General Sir Ian Hamilton, in charge since the beginning, was dismissed, and General Sir Charles Monroe took his place. Monroe had a more realistic approach than Hamilton. By the end of October, he had visited all 3 landing sites and came to the conclusion that the whole campaign was nothing short of total disaster. The Ottomans
God, it took
still
this
occupied
long,
the dominating
Jesus.
heights, and the overall lack of sufficient artillery and supplies would not challenge that. He telegraphed his opinions back to Kitchener, but Kitchener didn't believe him and went to see for himself.
God damn,
And yeah,
homie.
Kitchener could barely hide his shock over
Like, at least you went to go visit, but at the same time, I got put in charge of this. I'm here. This is my evaluation.
the whole situation either. By the end of November, the War Committee had approved the evacuation. Problem was that this is easier said than done. Immediate evacuation would result in a massacre if the Ottomans caught them halfway through, but with winter approaching, they could not wait for long. The temperatures dropped significantly. Heavy rain poured in from the heights down into the trenches.
Oh my
Cold
god, that's
winds from the
right.
sea-
They don't have the high ground, which means all that rain's gonna be running down into them. Oh, wind from the sea. Oh my god, that must have been fucking freezing. Holy
They
shit.
hit the exposed troops. Frostbite grew
And it's not like they're gonna have to ship in cold weather gear because they more than likely didn't have cold weather gear ready for this because they didn't think that this would happen.
rampant. Although the Ottoman soldiers were in the same boat, they at least had a short supply chain bolstered by gifts of things like winter clothing from the people of Constantinople. The only real option for the Allies was to evacuate without the Ottomans realizing it. The plan was
How do you pull that
they would
off?
lull the Ottomans by reducing activities to a minimum. The Anzacs and the 80,000 men at Suvla Bay were first. As they stopped responding to the enemy's shelling, the Ottomans came forward, but were met with rifle fire. As this was repeated, the Ottomans got used to the silence. Over weeks, the Allied lines were gradually thinned out until only a screening force remained. Sappers began booby-trapping the trenches, supply stores, and dugouts with tripwire explosives. On the night of December 18th, the final evacuation began. The Ottomans suspected nothing and, in fact, were only alerted by the fire and explosions as the last men set the fuses. The evacuation was
That's
a masterpiece
lucky.
in planning and execution. But what about Hellas?
Yeah, what about
Now
them?
that the Ottomans knew what was up, could they be fooled again? By diverse patterns of counterfire, periods of silence, they gave the Ottomans a false sense of activity until January 8th, when the evacuation of Hellas finally began. The last men in the trenches were almost crazy with nerves, because if the Ottomans had sniffed out their little trick, they could easily overrun the beaches.
Yeah.
But the night remained silent.
And Hellas, I believe, that was both British and French. So I don't know if the Ottomans would give quarter in that sense.
Everything that could not
Like
be
he was
brought away
saying.
was booby-trapped or destroyed. It was not until the last British soldiers had left the beaches that the first Ottoman patrols caught wind of the evacuation. The evacuations were complete successes.
That's good at least.
Shoreline, blood of heroes stains the land. Light a candle, one for each of them who fought and died in vain.
The full story of this battle, the Dardanelles, is clad in many tales and legends, which I encourage you to look up for yourself. But it had some lasting effects, even long beyond the war.
Okay.
For the Australians and New Zealanders, the Anzacs, the fight for Gallipoli grew into a part of their national identity. It was their baptism in fire and the beginning of a unique legacy separate from Britain and the British Empire. And for the Turks, the battle actually served to form a bond of friendship between those former enemies. They shared the same feelings of pride and valor, sacrifice and loss. This is perhaps best expressed by the following words attributed to Mustafa Kemal Ataturk.
Okay. Hear
Those
'em.
heroes that shed their blood and lost their lives, you are now lying in the soil of a friendly country. Therefore, rest in peace. There is no difference between the Johnnies and the Mehmets to us, where they lie side by side here in this country of ours. You, the mothers who sent their sons from faraway countries, wipe away your tears. Your sons are now lying in our bosom and are at peace. After having lost their lives on this land, they have become our sons as well.
Damn, that shit got me tearing up. Like, that's actually sad, but so honestly heartwarming. Damn. I wasn't expecting that. I like that. That's a nice saying. Like, yeah, to all you do not worry, you're in a friendly country. Don't wipe away your tears. They're at peace. Like, I like that a lot. Oh, that actually got my ass tearing up. Oh, and he references it.
Now, at the very beginning, you said this song took us from Sweden to Turkey. Can you tell them a little bit about that?
Yeah.
Yes.
The whole idea, I mean, we get a lot of emails like, write a song about this, write a song about that. But when it actually came to Cliffs of Gallipoli, we were playing a show in Netherlands.
In the Netherlands?
Yes.
Okay.
And a guy came, he was a songwriter. A songwriter doing several big artists in Turkey.
Okay.
He explained that I have an idea how you can write a song about something that you probably never heard about. And it's about my home country, Turkey.
Okay.
And a battle that took place there. And it will fit totally to your music. This guy came prepared and he gave me
Oh, that's dope.
this whole bunch of papers.
Yeah.
He-
But
he
you
came-
knew the name Gallipoli before, or no? Had you heard?
No, I mean, this is a song
Like I said,
that
I
was
only very
many years in the
vaguely
making.
heard it.
Right.
It became like something for Turkish people. This was very important.
Yeah.
It is important for the Anzacs as well, for Australians and New Zealanders.
And forming that friendship between the enemies, between the Turks and the Anzacs.
That was one of the things that inspired us from the beginning, like the speech about the Turk or the memorial wall,
Right.
where it says that here no nationality needs to be mattered because here we are all brothers.
Yeah, I
This-
really like
This
that.
stone was very important in the inspiration for writing the song. After we released it, we were not sure like what is gonna happen now, but then we got the invitation because this guy, he had some contacts in Turkey, and he was like, guys, I think that you need to perform this song in Turkey.
That's cool.
And I was excited because we had never been there, so of
Hell
course
yeah,
I
that sounds
opened up
fucking
and
dope.
Playing in new places.
Yeah, sure.
When we were sitting in the restaurant, all the TVs, we constantly saw advertisement for us.
Wow.
This was something we'd never seen before.
Yeah.
Today, we've
Yeah, but
we,
this was
we have
before you
seen
got that
yeah,
big.
yeah.
Yeah, but
more
this
than
is
10 years
early
ago. So
days.
this was the first time we actually saw like, wow, we're on TV.
Yeah.
We saw the interest for Sabaton once we landed there was ridiculously big. And what people would do when we just wanted to have an ice cream, you know, they would clear tables for us in a bar so
Yeah.
that we can have an ice cream. The big event was, of course, Sabaton performing
Yeah.
in a TV.
Yeah.
And this was a quite big television channel and nothing that we have ever done before. But it was hilarious how it worked on set. Because in a big TV station, normally you have strict rules,
Yeah,
what
sure.
is happening. But
Yeah,
in
but
this
for-
case, I think that all of them were so excited about having us there
Yeah, that's really
that they
cool.
didn't care about rules.
That's awesome.
So we were allowed
That
to do
is
whatever we wanted in
incredibly
this room.
cool. That is actually so fucking insanely cool. It's just like, Yeah, no, we're fucking excited for you to be here. You wrote a song about us. Do it. Do
And,
whatever you want.
and
It's
play as much as we
insane.
wanted. So it ended up with us playing pretty much a set, like a gig
On Turkish TV?
on Turkish TV, and there were people in the crowd and sitting there, and it was an absolutely amazing story, and I loved that thing. Was
God, to be
what the
to
Cliffs of
be
Gallipoli
there would have
led
been
to.
awesome.
Well, thank you very much, Per. Okay, that's it for Cliffs of Gallipoli, and this was Sabaton History.
This is a good one. I'm happy I finally checked it out.
So that's it for this week. And if you become a Patreon on some of the levels, you have a possibility to get a special edition of the Sabaton new album and all their previous albums.
Ooh.
So don't forget to become a subscriber of the YouTube channel, become a Patreon, and see you soon.
This was a good one. Thank you for recommending it. Really glad I finally checked it out. As always, all the links are down below. Go check them out. And until next time, you guys take care of yourselves. See ya.